You got them all?
No.
It gives them threatening looks. Any others?
Maybe,
All good?
later.
Thanks, Sylvie. Appreciate it. Ooh. Interesting. 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 How interesting. There's a lot of different answers on some of these. It's like usually everybody, there's a lot of variation in this. Do you want to see? Names not shown. How excited I get. How does all of this work? Yellow hand sanitizer out of the way. That'll work. I've got a phosphate group that looks like that. I've got a phosphate group that looks like that. I've got one that looks like that. And I have one that looks like that. Weird. Cool. That's it. Does everybody still have the amino acid thing? Do we still have this? On one side, there was a bunch of amino acids, and on the other side was something called mRNA codon amino acid chart. Can you hold it up for the class? Perfect, perfect. You can. What a bar. Can you pass this back? Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. I got 2 left. Perfect, thank you. Perfect. Last time we did triglycerides and phospholipids, correct? We are not quite done with the lipids. We have one more to go, which is what's our third kind of lipid? Steroids. What color are steroids? Are they purple, green, blue, red, orange, or yellow? Ooh. And we know they're serious because there's an exclamation point. Awesome. Triglycerides and phospholipids look very similar to each other. It is due. It's a glycerol with some fatty acids attached to the bottom of them, correct? And the difference is what? The triglyceride, you have 3 fatty acid chains coming off the bottom, correct?
Yeah.
Perfect. And the phospholipid, you have a phosphate functional group coming off the bottom of it. Right?
Yeah.
the phosphate functional group. See what I did there? So triglycerides and phospholipids look really, really super similar to each other. Steroids are like, it could not be more different. They look super different. Who wants to draw a steroid? It's like they're obnoxious. So it's like a 5-carbon ring, 6-carbon ring, 6-carbon ring, with another 6-carbon ring coming off of it. It's like all steroids have this. These are all carbon atoms that have all sort of throughout. So it's like this big, huge 4-part carbon ring where one is a 5 and the rest of them are 6-carbon rings. So you draw what I call a Superman symbol, right? Because he had kind of on his, if this was, yeah, Superman, it's got the S and then like some 6-carbon rings like that. And all the steroids have this basic backbone. And the differences are like, it's like where you attach different side molecules to this thing in different places. But they all have this backbone. And there are 3 that are important to us in biological science. Well, there's like 50 that are important to us. There's 3 in particular that we keep coming up with over and over again. And one of them is testosterone. Another one would be cholesterol, and another would be estrogen. And what you can see from these 3 steroids is that all of them tend to have like a different ending to them, which is kind of weird. Sugars usually end in ose, right? Just like a thing. Many steroids in this little OL. I think that's what I probably see the most. Ons and alls are frequent out there. So like cortisol, prednisone, right? These kind of molecules like that tend to be the steroids. And they are still lipids, and so they are nonpolar. Good. Good. How do we know these? How do we know these? How do we know these steroids? How do we know of them? What does testosterone do? What is it used for in the body? Like chemical signaling. If you have more of this than that, one tends to develop the physical properties of maleness, as we define it, sort of. If you have more of this than that, you tend to develop the secondary characteristics of femaleness, right? It's not dudes have this and women have this, right? It's not quite that simple. It's not quite that simple. We both do both. We all do both. And every one, no matter where one falls on the outward appearances of maleness and femaleness, we have testosterone and estrogen present in varying levels in the body. And then we have cholesterol, which is known mostly for what? Like heart disease and dying, right? It's like, I don't want to get high cholesterol or anything like that. That's how we sort of know of it. Its biological functions, however, are supremely important, especially when you consider what lipids tend to do. So who has ever seen butter? It's this really cool stuff. It comes out of cows. Well, the butter doesn't come out of cows, but it's this milk stuff. You know what milk is? What is milk?
Cow.
It's what?
I was joking, sorry. Cowpea.
It's milk. Milk.
That's what I thought it was when I was a kid.
That is cowpea. No, cowpea is different.
Do we use cowpea?
I don't.
Okay.
It's the cow.
It's cow juice. So you squeeze a cow really hard, right, and the milk comes out. It's much like all milk products are. It's modified. It's derived modificationally from sweat, right? It's derived from cow sweat. So if you ever like drink milk or enjoy milk, if you look at what milk is and where it comes from, it's modified sweat glands. That whereas the sweat has been modified to have like higher protein count, higher lipid count, higher sort of whatever.
So that's the same with humans, like
Yes.
their sweat.
Yeah, it's all milk products for mammals are modified sweat. I mean, if you look at some of the what we sort of call like simple or early mammals, things like the platypus and the echidna, they don't have actual. You wouldn't look at them and say, "Ooh, it has breasts" or something like that. It doesn't. It just has regions on the front of the torso where when the baby is going to nurse, like milk just comes out of different places on the skin like sweat, and the baby just like licks it off of the skin, right? So this whole notion of like breasts is a further down the line kind of thing, right? But it's like, yeah, it's pretty much sweat. So I enjoy sweat when it's like the moisture has been removed and you can grate it over pasta and put it on eggs and things like that. We call it cheese when we do that. A lot of people put cow sweat on their cereal in the morning. We have transitioned over to oat sweat in our household, right? You can make almond sweat. If it's plant-based, we don't call it sweat anymore, right? But actual like goat milk, sheep milk, cow's milk, camel milk, things like that. Yeah, it's modified sweat. Fun fact. It is a ruin of milk for you. Perfect. And there's a lot of cholesterol in it for a variety of interesting reasons. It's a critical, absolutely critical molecule for life on Earth. So again, butter. Who's ever seen butter? Butter. That's perfect. Right. Don't start that over again. You get sassy. I ruin a product for you like milk. And when you get it hot, it does what? Melts. Yay. And when it gets cold, it turns into a solid again. And you can, oils and fats will do this. Under high temperature, they tend to turn into a liquid. Under lower temperature, they tend to turn into a solid. Even the oils that are room temperature liquids, like olive oil and canola oil, if you stick them in the refrigerator, they can turn into a solid. Right? Yes? Well, I mean, we don't do that often, so it's like, I guess, I don't know, I've never done it. This is not like go home and put your canola oil in the refrigerator, and your mom's gonna be like, what the hell is a canola oil in the refrigerator?
I made butter like a month ago.
What'd you do?
Basically, I just took, I saw it online, how you call it, heavy cream.
Yeah.
Put it on the KitchenAid.
From like the grocery store.
Yes, and then put it like in the KitchenAid, let it spin until like it breaks. It breaks at first it makes like this whipping cream, but you just let it go and then it breaks the whipping cream, and then you have like buttermilk.
Yeah, you have buttermilk and butter.
Butter.
It's super easy to make. It's super easy to make. It's like just buy some heavy cream and put it in the blender or the KitchenAid in what, 5 minutes?
Yeah.
10 minutes? Yeah. Back in the good old days, this is before my time, you put all the milk in this thing and you just cranked on it and it would like agitate the milk and do that for about 20 minutes and you get like butter and butter. They would separate out, which is neat, I think. And considering that we now know just from our own personal investigation and looking around that lipids have this property of their viscosity, their thickness, their fluidity is dependent on temperature. So with lipids, when you get them cold, they turn into solids. When you heat them up, they get kind of soft and then get kind of gooey, and then they turn into a full-on liquid. The problem is all of your cell membranes in your entire body are made of lipids, right? Yeah. So what we're noticing is like if we go outside on a super hot day, do you turn into a liquid?
No.
You get gross, but your cells still maintain consistency. On a really cold day, when you go outside, do you turn into a solid? You're like, yep. You don't. I mean, you get cold, but your cell membranes still have the same viscosity, right? So you put something in your cell membranes, in your phospholipid bilayer, to make sure that the viscosity stays the same. What you put in there is cholesterol. And this is how it works. Can I erase this?
Yes.
Sure. Perfect. Look what I can do. Be here all day. Phospholipid bilayer, yes? From last time, remember that? So each one is a phospholipid. It goes kind of off that way, and it goes kind of off that way. And there's more of it down here. It makes a full circle. And on the inside, we put life, and on the outside, we put the environment. We're there. Perfect. What color is cholesterol? What color do you want it to be?
Yellow.
It's yellow distinctive.
It's egg, right?
It is kind of yellowish, isn't it? It's like, yeah, yellow is probably appropriate. So what you'll do, you'll kind of take these cholesterol molecules and you'll kind of interdisperse them amongst the tails of the phospholipids in the cell membrane thusly. What this does, because the tails are nonpolar, correct? And because the cholesterol is also nonpolar, right? If the temperature starts to increase and these things start moving a little faster and get kind of jiggly, the cholesterol molecules, because they're both nonpolar, will attract the phospholipid tails back together again and keep them from spreading out and moving them too quickly. So it because they're the same charge potential, a lot they're both nonpolar, as these things start buzzing around, it'll be like, it will hold them into place if the temperature starts to increase. If the temperature starts to go down and they start to pack really close to each other, like things tend to do when things get cold, it will provide a barrier keeping them from getting any closer together than they normally are. See how that works? So when all the phospholipids around start moving fast, it stabilizes them. When they start moving close together from the temperature getting cold, it holds them apart, which means that they can moderate the viscosity of your cell membrane in a temperature changing environment, which is cool. Go for it.
Can you repeat when you said when the temperature gets hot? Like, what does it keeps them together or apart?
It keeps them together.
Together when it
Yeah,
gets
when it gets
Okay.
when they start moving, when it gets warmer and molecules start moving faster and they start getting a little loosey-goosey from the higher energy level, the non-polarity of both the tails and the cholesterol will hold them together,
Okay.
right? Because they'll associate with each other for charge reasons. And then when the phospholipids start to move closer together, it will literally hold them apart from each other so that they don't get too close and then turn into a solid. So it's like you don't melt in the summer, you don't turn into a block of butter or Crisco in the winter, cholesterol in your cell membrane. That's what it's doing, which means it's like it is required for life on Earth, right? In environments where temperature is changing. Go for it.
When you have high cholesterol, does it affect this process?
It doesn't necessarily affect it, right? But there's a curious interplay with cholesterol as it's measured in the body, between it being a biological necessity. Your body will make it if it needs to, right? Your body can make cholesterol. But anytime you eat any animal product at all, you're eating cholesterol. There's no way to not eat cholesterol when you eat animal products. It's in every cell membrane of everything you eat. some things have higher cholesterol than other things, but every single animal product on Earth contains cholesterol as part of it that you would eat, right? So you can get it from your diet and you can make it if you need it. The lowest I've ever been able to get my own cholesterol, heart disease runs in the family, the lowest I've ever been able to get mine is about 70, 75. And it's like, I was training for a half marathon. I was full on vegan and drinking a lot of water. And I got it down in like the 70s or 80s. Typically they say it's like under 200 is good. But I know somebody once or twice who has got their cholesterol down even below, like into the 50s, like ultra low. And she was fit. She was fit. I mean, she did a lot of physical activity, which is always a good thing. But she wasn't vegan, right? She was eating a little bit of cholesterol. And so, what my body was doing, because I was getting absolutely no cholesterol in my body, it was actually overproducing a little. Because it was in cholesterol starvation. So it's like if I could have gotten my cholesterol a little bit lower, if I probably would have eaten a little bit of it, because then my body wouldn't have seen it as such a scarce resource and would have slowed down its own production. So it's like if you get a lot from your diet, your body's not going to make as much of it. If you completely shut down all cholesterol that you eat, your body will make will make more. So it's like there's this balance, right? So it's like if you want low cholesterol, don't eat a lot of it. If you want the lowest cholesterol, eat like a little bit of it and get a lot of exercise. So if you go into full cholesterol starvation, your body can actually not overproduce, but make a little more than it might need. Right? But it can never be at zero. It can never be at zero. I mean, your body is always, as you're recycling cells and rejuvenating cells, your body needs to make it to keep your cell membranes sort of viable in plastic.
It's probably a dumb question, but
Whoa, stop. Let's start over.
Sorry.
Okay. No apologies. Do we forgive or forgiven?
Yeah.
Let's start over.
Okay. So does that depend on so if you're vegetarian, you're obviously getting carbs and you're still eating eggs and stuff like that. When you're vegan,
Shit ton of cheese.
Yeah. I'm vegetarian, so I eat a bunch of that. But if you're vegan, you're not getting anything.
You're not getting any of it.
Is that considered kind of dangerous? I
It
don't know.
depends.
It
It depends. It
You're not
depends.
really getting a lot.
You do. I mean, it is if you're just eating plant-based fully 100%. It is important to eat a wide variety of things. The sort of the general advice for folks, not a dietitian, I'm a paleontologist. For folks who go full on plant-based, is eat as many different colored things as you can. Right. And it's good not to don't sterilize everything when you eat it, because there's a lot of things. I mean, the big thing is vitamin B is the big one, right? That is commonly said, like vitamin B. It's like if you go vegan, your vitamin D is going to crash. So it's going to take a supplement or something like that. It's fine, right? And so the thought is eating animal products is the only way to get vitamin B. It is not. It is not. Right, vitamin B is usually made by bacteria and algae. So it's like if you're eating algae products from the ocean, which you can do, that's one way to get vitamin B. Or go to the farmer's market, buy some root vegetables, wash them, but don't wash them too good. Eat a little dirt and you'll get vitamin B. Or do what I do when I was vegan. Yeah, just get a vitamin B supplement, take one a couple of times a week. And you'll be okay. But that's sort of the big one. Okay. Yeah. You feel great after vitamin B. You feel great. You pee yellow, bright yellow. But I mean that's usually what I did. So they're easy and cheap. The vitamin B is cheap. But there are a couple of things that it's not. I don't want to say it's important, but it's good to keep your eye on if you go full on vegan. And vitamin B is probably the big one. Vitamin B. Riboflavin. We'll get into this when we get into aerobic respiration and mitochondria. Vitamin B is super important in the Krebs cycle with converting glucose into ATP. And that's why when you take it, anybody ever take vitamin B? You feel great. It's like you have more electron carriers coming out of your Krebs cycle for aerobic respiration. So it's I get this energy bolt.
You know, you feel really energized when you're peeing like spectacularly bright yellow pee. Facts, man. Hey, it's a fact, right? And in that case, it's usually yeast. They use a yeast as the vitamin B source. In that case, so fungi can make it pretty effectively as well. But I mean, there's the big myth is that if you're going to go vegan, you're going to get low protein, right? And it's like that just doesn't happen. You know, this sort of protein scarcity myth that sort of exists out there. There's as much protein in broccoli as there is in a steak.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
It just doesn't taste like it.
It just don't taste like it. Oh, yeah, because you're not eating it for the protein. You're eating it for the fatty, yummy, salty, peppery, burnt, caramelized cow. Yum. Yum. Right? If you don't like steak, you like steak.
How do you test cholesterol? Like I've never heard of like a cholesterol.
Oh, you go to your doctor and they take some blood out of your arm and they do a cholesterol count.
So do vegan people usually like have a high cholesterol because they're not, and so their body's producing so much?
No, usually not.
Oh,
Usually
okay.
not. No, usually it's probably not over 200. Not over, but I mean it varies from person to person.
Okay.
You know, yeah. I mean, there's tons of protein in plants. There's tons of protein in plants.
Did you say earlier that cholesterol moderates the viscosity?
Correct. So when phospholipids get hot, it keeps them from getting liquidy, and when it gets cold, it keeps them from turning into a solid. So it maintains the standard fluidity of a cell membrane, I would say. Cool. So cholesterol is fun. I mean, you think about it in like, oh my God, you don't want to eat high cholesterol or whatever, but it's like, it is a fundamental part of the cell membrane of every animal out there. It is unavoidable. So it's like you get your chicken breast and you trim all the fat off and you steam it. And at that point, who wants to actually eat it? You know, am I right? It's like, even with all that, you're still getting cholesterol. It is unavoidable. It's in the cell membranes, right? It's not in the fat around it. It's in the cell membranes itself.
So the fat just contains more cholesterol.
Not really.
What?
Not really.
So why do people take it out just because?
I mean, the thing that has probably the most cholesterol that you can find is egg yolk. It probably has more cholesterol than anything else in concentration that you can be able to find, which is why it's so tasty. But you think about it. But if you think about it, though, why does an egg yolk have so much cholesterol in it? Inside of that shell of that egg is everything you need to grow a chicken, right? So you must have cholesterol in that egg. Because when baby chickie makes its cell membranes, it needs a cholesterol source, right? So it's packed into the yolk. You know, and the white stuff is all the protein that the chicken needs in order to grow a chicken, and the yolk is all the fats and the cholesterol. Yeah. Go ahead. Go back. Go ahead. Jerry.
Yeah.
In terms of cholesterol being vital for the cell wall of pretty much every living
Membrane.
cell membrane.
Yeah.
Cell
We'll
membrane.
talk about cell walls. I only do a correction because cell walls are a specific thing.
Is there any distinction in terms of different groups of animals having more
Yeah.
cholesterol than
Seafood.
others, or more dense?
Seafood tends to have more.
Really?
Yeah. Thing where they live. You know, cold water, cold ocean. You know, they can be higher cholesterol. Beef is pretty high, but I think that's probably engineered that way. So some things have sort of more or less. I mean, generally speaking, white meat, chicken breast is probably going to be pretty low. But seafood is pretty.
So
Shrimp.
it's like an
Shrimp.
environmental.
Yeah.
Like salmon, for instance.
Like cold water salmon. Yeah, cold water tuna.
So to
Mollusks. Like oysters. Right. Shrimp is pretty high in cholesterol, which is too bad because it's tasty.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, that's not like, oh my God, it has cholesterol and I can't eat it. It's like, well, just don't eat it every damn day. You'll be fine.
So to lower cholesterol, you just have to stay away from.
No, you can eat all you want.
But if
You
someone
might die early, but
No, but if someone wants to like lower their cholesterol, they would just not eat.
don't eat as much and get some exercise. Animal
there's
protein, animal,
Oh, animal.
and it's not even animal protein, it's animal products. That includes milk, that includes eggs, that includes cheese, that includes meat, because it all has cholesterol in it. Right, so it's like,
So go vegan.
eat more, not necessarily, I mean, but you can get some,
Yeah.
you can get some animal products in and
Which is
go
not.
pescatarian, you know. But you don't have
I
to,
thought.
here's something that people like, it's like, you don't have to eat meat every day, you know. You can go for whole days without eating. You could go for whole weeks without eating animal products. You can go for whole years without eating it, and you're fine, right? And I promise you, your body will change when you do this in different ways. It will.
But wouldn't fish, because they're in the water, have more cholesterol?
Fish do have typically a good amount in them.
But you said go pescatarian.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to eat fish every day.
Oh,
You know, if
okay. I got it.
yeah, cool.
Okay, so I'm kind of confused. So like, what would be like the best type of foods to eat if you were to try to lose like weight or something?
Fiber, dietary fiber, through the roof. Clean protein and dietary fiber.
What's that?
Plant stuff, broccoli, cauliflower, dark leafy greens, kale, chards, things like that. Just load up. And lean protein, you know, white meat, chicken, pork, that kind of stuff, right? Because I mean, if you have breakfast, which is, you know, I'm going to describe what I ate for breakfast to you. It's a single egg with about a third of a cup of egg white, like in it. And I mix that up so it's like it's mostly egg white, but there is one whole egg in it. About a cup and a half of steamed broccoli, and about 100 grams of chopped up chicken breast in a skillet in the morning, and whip it into a scramble. Put some hot sauce on it. A couple times a week, maybe a spoonful of guac. Two things. One, yum. And if you eat that about 7:30, 8 a.m., you won't be hungry until about 2. You know, you got a bunch of fiber, you got bulk, you got a lot of protein in there. It was good, you know, so you didn't suffer at it. You'll be all right. You know, and breakfast is usually broccoli, black beans, and chopped up chicken breast or something like that. Some super lean protein. In dinner is spinach salad with tuna on it, or just like a salad or something like that. And you'll drop a pound or 2 a week.
You don't eat lunch?
Yeah, that's the black beans, chicken, and
Oh.
broccoli. I eat a lot of broccoli. Costco. Go ahead.
Okay, so like, so people like kind of go like they're like vegetarian or vegan, and then they decide, oh, I'm gonna go back to eating meat like on the reg. Do you get like sick?
You don't feel that great for a couple of days. I can only speak to my own experience. My veganism ended about a month before my 10th wedding anniversary, because we did our 10th wedding anniversary. I told you about this, right? For our 10-year wedding anniversary, we went to Paris. I am not going to be vegan in Paris. It's just not going to be something that I do. It's stupid. It's like, when I go to Paris and what, eat fucking lettuce? It's like, why? What am I going to do? Hell no. So I figured, well, I don't want to feel bad in Paris, so I'm going to gradually, you know, kind of get back onto meat. And it's like, yeah, you don't feel great. It takes a little bit for your body to adapt.
But then once in Paris, you feel better, right?
Yeah, because I ate some meat for a month before, but you walk a lot.
Sure.
Right? So, but I'm glad I did, because I went on a meat bender in Paris. It was like meat and cheese and fish and all kinds of delightful stuff. And then when I got back, it was like, ooh, hot dogs. And then I just kind of went so off the wagon, it was absurd. So I kind of go back and forth. You need to get serious about it. Go ahead.
So 2 things. One, I was thinking of becoming pescatarian.
Yeah.
Because I like fish. So that means that my cholesterol's gonna go up.
Not necessarily. How often do you intend on eating fish?
All the time.
If you eat nothing but fish all day, yes, your cholesterol will probably go up, right? Maybe. I mean, we'll see. I mean, it depends on what else you're cutting out, right? If you cut out the milk, cut out the cheese, cut out the fat, cut out all the other sources of cholesterol, it might not.
Okay.
You know, but if you eat nothing but fish 3 times a day, yeah, it probably will go up.
Oh, great. And then number two is,
but then it's like, okay, so don't, right? I mean, there's other sources of protein out there that are not animal-based that you can eat. Nuts, legumes, right? There's all kinds of
True.
stuff out there.
and then the other one was, I saw this girl eating a whole entire stick of butter.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Is
I
that
wouldn't.
because she was lacking cholesterol, or she just likes butter?
she just likes butter. But I mean, she might, I mean, we all, everyone in this room right now thinks something is true that is complete bullshit. Is that true? I mean, I do. You know, I think so. I know that within me there are things that I think are true that are just absolutely BS. And with dietary stuff, one of the more common ones that a lot of people have come to, which I mentioned earlier, is that if you don't eat meat, you're going to go into protein deficit. You're going to be short on protein. It's like, that doesn't actually happen that way.
Don't beans have protein or something?
Yeah, like everything is protein. It's like the thing out there that has the least protein is still 50% protein by mass. It's like there's tons of protein out there. There's no shortage of it at all. But it's like this whole, I need cholesterol is important, so I need to eat a stick of butter. It's like if you don't do anything at all and don't pay attention to your diet, you will make enough cholesterol to live. If you go full on vegan, you will make enough cholesterol to be fine. If you eat a lot of stick of butter or a lot of butter all the time, your body will do everything it can to get rid of excess cholesterol as much as possible. Coronary arteries are a good place to start dumping it. Let's pack it there. You know, what could possibly go wrong? You know, what could possibly go wrong? So, you know, if you're below 200 with your cholesterol, you're good. But the thing, and this is what people really don't like to hear, the thing that really lowers cholesterol more than just about anything else besides diet is exercise. So get moving, get moving. That'll drop it. 2-digit points, 3-digit points sometimes. You can go from a 300 to a 200 just from getting your 10,000 in a day. Don't go beyond that. Go ahead.
So cholesterol itself is like the root and the main source of why the body gains weight?
No, that's just calories. That's just calorie math.
Okay.
There are consequences to just going around in the world eating anything that you want all the time. Let me just say that. But many diets that are out there. My personal favorite one, if anybody's looking for a weight loss program, is the Tim Ferriss slow carb diet. If you know that one, it's all over the internet. You can look it up. And it's high fiber, high protein. Is kind of what I was saying. What my breakfast was. And this is not a recommendation. You know, we have to kind of go our own path on earth. So don't necessarily, my professor said I should go on a slow carb diet, so I'm going to do it. And not anything but broccoli and chicken. Massive amounts of dietary fiber. Cellulose, right? And a lot of really clean protein. You won't be hungry. You eat 3 solid meals a day. It's good, clean stuff. It's nothing out of a box, nothing out of a package, none of that nonsense. And you're not really hungry. It's like broccoli and white meat chicken. Eat till you're full.
Yeah.
You know, you eat as much as you can, and you probably took in about 300 calories. You know, so like at the end of the day, it seems like you're eating a lot. I was clocking in after 3 solid meals a day, not being hungry at about 1,200 calories a day. Now I was losing about 2 pounds a week.
That's good.
I was losing about 2 pounds a week. But that first week, I lost about 5 or 6 because I dumped all the glycogen and I lost all the water.
Yeah, that's great. So did you say it's called Tim Ferry?
It's the slow carb. So it's not no carb. It's not keto. Right, because you do get carbohydrates from the beans and stuff like that, but they're complex carbohydrates. There's no simple carbs. So I'm sorry, but your morning beverage is not part of that, not part of that dietary regimen, right? And once a week, and I was saying this before, once a week, it's like on Saturday, it's like eat whatever you want, like go to Costco and get like a cake and eat it. But only on Saturday, right? And it's like to not give it sort of doesn't let your body regulate, so it's always in a slight state of carbonic stress, so it doesn't totally shut down. And it also is like you get it out of your system. It's like, oh my God, I really want some cake. It's like, well, on Saturday, I'm gonna eat the whole damn thing. So by Saturday night, it's like, if I never see cake again, it's fine. But like bread's out, obviously. So any of these kind of fast release carbohydrate things are just like, they're gone. They're gone, except for on Saturdays. And that, it worked for me. I dropped quite a few pounds pretty quick
You're so man.
on that. That's true. That's true. My body is different. And I burn about 1,000 calories up here in an hour and 15 minutes.
Can't relate.
It's like teaching class burns some calories up here, at least the way I do it does. Go ahead.
I have my old question from a little bit ago.
Yeah. I want to circle back.
But I also got a new question from that conversation. The first one has less to do with biology. You were explaining like the egg thing, like the yellow and the white, but there are the little white things, like that's like attached to the yolk, like that you clean out for like sweets. I don't know if anybody else does that. What's that?
Take Bio 102. We talk about all of that, right? There's all sort of membranes inside of that egg.
Okay. My brother told me it was like, how do I say this?
Embryo?
No, the other, from the dude. Oh, what?
I don't think that's true.
Okay.
Well, I think you just said that so that you wouldn't.
Maybe.
I don't think that's true.
The
Yeah.
second one is, you were talking about like diets and like carbs and it. Why does like intermittent fasting do so much for your like body? That like, cause that's like the other one that drops weight very, very fast.
It can.
Like those 16 hours, but
It
it
can.
does it hurt you in any way?
None of these things are things that you want to build a lifestyle around, like long term. I mean, the best thing to do, like for the span of your life, is get a fair amount of exercise, eat a lot of dietary fiber, and be thoughtful about what you put in your face. And if you and the amount of it. This is sort of God, what's his name? Michael Geiger? Was it Michael Geiger or somebody else? His rules were eat food, not too much, mostly plants. Were his guidelines. Eat food, not too much, mostly plants.
Actually, when fasting, I end up eating more during that time frame. When I'm not
You can, but your energy levels are,
fasting.
when you're a little hungry, way up.
Have you ever tried fasting Ramadan?
Like in sympathetic fasting during Ramadan,
Like, no, full on fasting.
like for the whole month.
Yeah.
For the whole month. I haven't. Is anybody in here going to do that?
I
can sympathetically do it with you if you'd like. Hey man, my body's in a lab in and of itself. Even the water?
Even the water.
Do you do even the water? Ooh, that's rough. Does that include?
It's not as rough as it seems.
The thought of it's far worse than the reality of
Yeah.
it, right?
You ended up gaining weight. Oh, at least in my case, I end up gaining weight. Because I eat way too much during that time.
Hey man, I like an experiment. I'll sympathetically do it too if you want. Imagine you're thirsty, but it's like the hunger thing. I'm fine with that. It's like, my God, I'm gonna be so thirsty. That's the thing that's freaking me out right now.
That's okay. I've been doing that for 6 years. It's not that
I've
bad.
been doing it for 0.
You even play sport and
So it's,
trust me.
It's very hard. As a kid, I would go visit my dad during the summers. I could not. Anytime. I gave up after like, I don't know, hours.
well, you can do it with us then.
Yeah, I can't. I
Do it with us.
can't explain.
Do
It's so
it. Do
difficult.
it. Do it.
I don't know. I'm not good at it.
If I can do it, you can do it. I believe in you.
Don't give up.
I don't know. I'm an ice chewer too.
Go ahead. Question.
Is there a reason why it's easier for men to drop weight versus women? Or is it just based off the...
I mean, 2 things about that. One, that's a very general statement. It's
Yeah.
probably not true for everyone,
Yeah.
right? So I'm sure those curves overlap a little bit on the tails. It's probably just muscle content. Yeah, muscle burns a lot of calories. The more muscle you have, the more calories you're going to burn. Just like in base metabolic rate.
That's because you guys don't have a lot of estrogen.
I thought
We don't have a lot of estrogen, so we have more testosterone, so we have more muscle.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so it just plays out that way.
Metabolism levels are different.
They can be. They can be, for sure. But a lot of it's, I think, is muscular. Last one before we actually talk about
So
biology.
you said muscle burns a lot of calories, so would it be more effective to like do weightlifting as opposed to running?
It'll do it. It's like just the number of grams you have of muscle tissue in your body, the more you have. I mean, muscle burns about twice as much calories per minute than any other tissue type you have. So, I mean, the more muscle you have, the higher that basic metabolic rate will be. just in the background, when you're asleep, you'll burn more calories with the more muscle you have. It's expensive to run. For sure. So yeah, just bulk up a little bit. Give yourself maybe 5-10 more pounds of muscle. You'll knock out a few hundred calories a day, just in basic metabolic rate, just doing that. Or move the ones you have aerobically for more minutes in the day. That'll increase it too, just like that. Just like that. Just like your legs are doing right now. Yeah. That's fine. I want to as well. Very cool. Any other questions before we go on to? So there's no time left to go into actual things. So I'll finish up an interesting conversation about testosterone and estrogen with a story. Would you like to hear a story?
Yes.
Story time today. And then you can all go home and study how to draw phosphate groups correctly, because there's more variation in that than I'd like to see. So, fun fact. I'll try to find the actual article about this and put it on Canvas if you'd like to hear it. I remember it just like it was yesterday. But there was a case about, 5 or 10 years ago at this point, where there was an outbreak in the city of Chicago of 5, 6, 7-year-old girls started to undergo the initial stages of puberty. Right? So this is like, let me say 2 things about, it's like, here's this white guy who's going to start telling us about puberty in women. It's like, yeah, you're right. One observation that I will make. 13-year-old girls, when I was 13 years old in elementary school, were not as developed as 13-year-old girls are today. You hear that shit? And that shit is a fact.
Yeah.
Right.
Fact. Okay. It's like, I chalk that up to growth hormones, mostly in milk products, is probably where it is. It's like the onset of puberty is much earlier than it used to be in both men and women, but especially in women. Probably for the estrogen products in milk and dairy products. And just the sheer number of calories that are available. Typically, somebody did the math on this, and puberty usually starts around, I don't know what the number was, after you eat like 10 million calories in your life, that it triggers the onset. So it's like the more calories you eat while growing, typically the earlier puberty can begin. So there's a little bit of a relationship there. So today was like there's tons of growth hormones and everything, or at least there were before we started to crack down on that. And there are a lot more calories on the street in the United States as there are in many other parts of the world, and that's just a fact as well, right, Sylvie? Yeah. We were talking about this a while ago. It's easy to get cheap calories, and but this is like not any of that. It's like 5, 6, 7 years old. That's younger than you can account for with calories and growth hormones and dairy. So what's going on? And so this was such an urgent thing that the CDC swooped in to try to figure out, okay, it's like if what's happening here. So the epidemiologists went in and they were kind of looking all around and figuring out what was going on. And it was really only centered in this one neighborhood. And all the mothers of this group of girls that was starting puberty were going to the same salon to get their hair done, get the nails done, all that kind of stuff, right? And what was going on while mom was getting her hair whatevered, haircut, trim, whatever women do. I go to a haircut, I don't know, I'm in and out in 10 minutes. I don't know what you do in there, right? You get washed and whatever, right? The small 5, 6, 7-year-old daughters were over here, and they were getting a little makeup put on, whatever, to be fun and cute and all that other kind of stuff, kind of over here on the side. So it's like, oh, let me put some makeup on little Linda or whatever, right? The girls who were participating in that started to undergo the onset of puberty. The mascara and the makeup products that the salon was using was super, super, super high in estrogen. So yes, all the product line they were using was super high in estrogen. There was like massive amounts of estrogen in the makeup they were using, like the blush and all that other kind of stuff. And there was so much estrogen in it, it was going through the skin which it can do because it's nonpolar. There was so much in it that it was actually causing the biochemical onset of puberty artificially. Conversely, in the 1980s, there was a country called East Germany. Remember East Germany? Raise your hand if you remember East Germany. Like 2 or 3 of us might. A country called East Germany. They did one thing really, really well in the Olympics. Women's weightlifting. Women's weightlifting. They cheated worse than professional cyclists do today. I mean, massive testosterone injections all around. And it's like, you have all the women weightlifters kind of go in and it's like, wow, she's huge, right? Massive. But then the East German women's team would come in and it's like Arnold Schwarzenegger over here coming in, like such massive amounts of testosterone injection, right? Steroidal injection going into the East German women's weightlifting team. It was like massive cheating, right? And so they were doing the other thing. They were artificially introducing massive amounts of testosterone to bulk up, just for like sheer power. And they were doing that. So ways to cheat, it's still rampant today, but oftentimes hormonal in their use. So I say professional cyclists because they were the one that got the most scrutiny recently, with like all the myriad ways that professional cyclists, Lance Armstrong and his ilk. But it's like sometimes you see it's like a professional golfer was busted for testosterone injections. It's like golf? It's like you can cheat in golf using hormone? It's like what? It's like nothing. It's like it's going to be some bowler or something like that. It's like some shuffleboard player is going to be busted for steroid use. But it happens though. I mean, these things are non-polar. They go across the skin. Most medicinal steroids like prednisone are topical. A lot of times you just kind of rub it on your skin or whatever, and it sort of does the thing. It goes in, and it has a very long latency time in the body. It stays in the body for a long time, so they build up.
Could you be born like a girl? Could be born with a lot of estrogen?
Could a
Or a female
okay?
be born with an extreme amount of estrogen?
I've not heard
Well, because
of it. I've not heard of it.
the youngest girl to ever be pregnant was a 5-year-old
Yeah.
and she got pregnant at 5.
Yeah.
So I'm like, was she born?
That's
with
insane.
too much estrogen?
Yeah, I don't know. But it's a ratio and everything, right? It's this ratio between estrogen and testosterone. But like that's young. That's young. That seems kind of young to me.
Well, no, of course.
But I mean, but there's sort of a difference between like the outward development of secondary sexual characteristics and actual viable egg release from an ovary. I mean, those are kind of a little bit different from each other. That's a different hormonal process, a little bit. But still, yikes.
So you could get pregnant without hitting puberty? Is that possible?
I don't think I can actually say anything about that at this point that would be accurate. I've never looked into it. But
That's kind of good. I mean, yeah.
I hope.
It would be an
I hope,
option.
yeah. I hope that statement is true. But there was the Indiana girl who, just she got pregnant via assault and was sent, and couldn't find an abortion, so she went, where was it, Ohio? Or vice versa, she was in Ohio and she had to go to Indiana. It was like a month ago. She was like 12, I think, 12 or 13, something like that. So, yeah, so all that stuff seems to be getting earlier. 5's young. Curious stuff though.
If a person, like, let's say that continues to like inject steroids because they just want to like bulk up, but like for a long term, what can that do to the body?
Make your in the guys or in what? Or women?
In general,
I was gonna
like, I
say,
guess
make your
a guy-
testes shrivel up. You can get road rage.
So yeah,
Anger management issues.
why is it like so bad?
Early
Just
heart
'cause of-
disease. Well, testosterone is one of the things that really causes men to die earlier than women. So like if you look at how long people live lifespan, the average age for men is less than women. A lot of that just is chalked up to testosterone, not just because it makes us do stupid shit, which it does, but also it's like artery clogs. It promotes cardiovascular disease. The less testosterone you have, the longer you're probably going to live.
So when
generally.
people get like disqualified, for example, from like things, is it more because it's just cheating or is this really unhealthy?
They're cheating. They don't give a shit whether or not you're healthy. It's just cheating.
Oh. So steroids are, in a way, could be negative to the body.
They have consequences for the body. I like to put it that way. They have consequences.
Okay.
But
You
if you're,
still need it.
but I mean, if your entire body is breaking out in an immune response, prednisone can be a good thing to have, to tamp that down, and can be, so it's like everything is in balance, things are not good or bad. It's the amount of them and in what situations that they're good and bad,
Yeah, because I never understood steroids.
I mean, if you want your skin to look beautiful, get some prednisone. Your skin will clear up, boom, like that. You'll prednisone, you'll glow. Prednisone, clear your skin up like that.
I
But-
did though.
But yeah, after a while, it has
It makes you
consequences.
so angry.
And it's like emotional in
So
general.
irritable and
It's like
so hungry.
You're standing in line in the CVS and you're like, I just love everybody. It's like too much prednisone. It's weird. And it can do some structural changes in your skin and on your face as well sometimes. But initially it's like, man, your skin is beautiful. Yeah, prednisone. It's weird. It's
You create
weird.
it when you're pregnant? Because you're saying your skin is glowing, you get emotional. That sounds like pregnancy.
I don't think that we, I don't know, that's a good question that we can check.
I'll Google it.
Yeah, this is not like, don't turn this lecture into a shopping list. Well, that's my fear, is that you're gonna go right from here to Safeway, pharmacy. Can I get some prednisone and some testosterone? And then over here, it's like, I need nothing but plants and lean chicken. Do your homework and do your best judgment. The thing that works is the thing that's best for you. I love you all. You guys are great. On Thursday, we'll have lecture and we'll talk about what we were going to talk about today. And then we'll do a lovely lab where we detect and experiment on different kinds of macromolecules. Sound fun? 1, 2, 3. Bye, everybody. Learn how to draw phosphate groups. I'll give this quiz to you again, I swear.